Good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday. I had a look, July the 23rd. Welcome to the Needlebug. My name is Karen, and I'd like to welcome any new people that are joining my channel. This is where I talk about my cross stitch. Mainly I do full coverage pieces, and we talk about stitching on the diagonal. Not that I don't do other things anymore, because I do, but this is a cross stitch channel, and that's what we'll talk about. Mainly I like to share my stitching experiences with everybody and hopefully get to teach everybody a thing or two. If you're returning, thanks for coming back and hanging out with me. I really appreciate your time and your patience. Hopefully this is a fun place, and we're all learning some new things and getting to know each other, and I really do appreciate all of you. Since I'm a little bit disabled right now, I thought at least for part of this video I would show you some things I've been working on previous to my surgery and since my surgery. And then if it's not too long, we'll do a little bit of stitching. So we'll see how it goes. So this piece I started, oh wow, it's been a work in progress for I'm gonna say 5 or 6 years. It's Scarlet Letters Manifesto. There we go. This piece has actually been started twice. When I initially started it, I started out on 40 count Graziano linen, which by the way is not available anymore. They discontinued that. And I had it, oh, I don't know, a good third of the way done. And then I saw someone stitching it on over one, and I went, oh my gosh, I love that even better. So I gifted what I had done to a friend of mine. I don't know if she ever, I really don't know that she ever worked on it, but she has it to complete it if she ever wants to. And I started it again on 28 count Lugana, and I love it. I love it. And it was so funny. At the time, there was a shop about, I would say about a half hour from me, and they had always had a stitching night where a group of us would gather and stitch together. In fact, that's where I met Barb, the gal who also admins the Facebook group with me. We become very good friends. She's like a sister. And I took my restart along to the stitching group one night, and she saw it, and her first remark was, oh my God, I love you. Because she just really liked it on the 28 count also. So this is my progress. I hope I can get it all in the frame here. This is my progress on it. I've stitched a little bit on it since my surgery. I did, let's see, I finished the bricks, these bricks down in here and across here, started on the door. I'm outlining bricks under this window and on this side of the door so that I can fill those in, and I'm just gradually building the house until I get over. And then what I will do is drop down to the bottom and complete the front yard. And I'll gradually work my way across this way. It is one thread, one strand of floss over one fabric thread on 28 count. I don't work on it all that much. I get bored because it's just, well, it's like coloring it on a coloring book, to be honest with you. And after you've worked a heaven and earth design, honest to goodness, this gets boring. So when I'm in the mood for boring, then I stitch on this, which really isn't too often, but eventually, sometime, it will get finished if I have anything to say about it. So that's that one. I kind of have everything here aside of me so that I don't have to reach around too much. This one is Once Upon a Time. So I've completed a few more diagonals on this one. This is the one I'm making for my daughter. It's a heaven and earth design. I don't have the picture right here, unfortunately, but it is an Amy Stewart, and it is a quick stitch off of one of the bookshelves, and it goes something like, once upon a time in an enchanted books, there was a girl who loved to read, and my daughter is a very avid reader, so we're working on this for her. This is done with 1 strand of floss on 20 count. Now I know some people don't like that coverage, but really let's see if I can get it up a little closer for you. I'm quite happy with the coverage that I'm getting. So this one I will rotate every so often so that we get that finished for her. It actually stitches really pretty quickly, at least at this point. And once I get over to the book part, it's going to go even faster because there's a lot of solid stitching in there. So Once Upon a Time, Heaven and Earth, 20 count, 1/1. Okay. Now this one, I think Barb posted a picture of hers. We are both stitching this one, and the only time I work on it is when we're stitching. I'm gonna cut that off. When we're stitching together. It's Timeless Elegance. Again, another Heaven and Earth design. Let's see if I can hold this up. It looks like this when it's finished. I really like that, and one of the reasons I do really like it and want to stitch it is, I don't know if you remember my telling you, in my kitchen I have a lot of designs by Barbara and Cheryl. I think there's 5 of them hanging in there. I think, did I put those in a video? I don't remember. If I didn't, I will. But there are 5 different ones, and this one, even though it's not by Barbara and Cheryl, it does fit in rather nicely with them. So this is probably going to be a long-term project, and I really just started it, and I started in the upper left corner, and again stitching on the diagonal, and this is 1/1 on 28 count. So this is my first time doing a Heaven and Earth on 28 count, and I am doing full cross. I really toyed with the idea of, did I want to do 10 stitching, because, you know, so many people say it is so much faster and they really like 10 stitching, and the times I have done it, I don't know, maybe I'm too old and been stitching too long, but I just don't like the look of it. I don't know. I prefer to see full crosses. And that, for me, really is the bottom line. I just rather, I don't feel like tent stitching is cheating. Some people feel that way. They feel if it's tent stitch, it's not cross stitch. Well, Yeah, it is, because, well, that's a whole different discussion. We're not going to get into that. I don't personally feel like it's cheating. I just feel like it's another stitch that's used in the needlework world, just like your queen stitches and your long arm cross stitches and all of that. You know, we call them specialty stitches, but really there's nothing special about them. They're just stitches, different stitches that are used to create different textures in your designs. I just personally prefer the look of a full cross stitch over that of a 10 stitch, and that's just my own personal preference. And you know, a lot of people say, well, on like 28 count you really can't tell the difference. Well, I guess I've been doing it too long, because my eyes see a difference. Oh, they do. They just see it looks different to me. And again, it's just my own personal preference. So I am doing it full cross, 1/1, 28 count. Okay, there we go. And it doesn't look like much of anything but a purpley gray blob. So hopefully the next time you see it, it will have a little more in it. Don't tell Barb, but I am going to stitch on it a little bit without her because she's ahead of me. Because this next one is the one that I can't put down. I just can't. I just love it so much. And pardon my French, come hell or high water, I'm going to get it finished. It's going to be a while. I think I had calculated several months ago that to finish this within the next 2 years, I would have to stitch 400 stitches a day, every day. 365 days a year for 2 years in order to finish it in 2 years. Now, I am going to say I'm not quite halfway, but in just judging by appearances, I don't think I'm too far from halfway. And of course, most of you know which one I'm going to show at this point. Let me find a way to hold it here. This is Stitcher's Retreat, and I'm going to just have to do like this to get it all. And here we go, folks. There she is. She finally has a face. I am so tickled with that. But there she is. That's where we are. I actually did this face post-surgery. So the last 2 days, or let's see, what's today? What is today? Tuesday. So it was most of the weekend I worked on her face. And now I think I just have a little bit of the chin. So what I did is let me see here, see if I can do this better. Okay, it's 3 diagonals that make up her face. So I worked the first one part way down, then I went back to the top and started the second one, worked it part way down, or worked it even with the first one, and then I did the third diagonal and made that even with the other 2. So now that I have her face, I'm going to go back to my 10 stitch wide diagonal and complete it the rest of the way, and then finish the other 2 the rest of the way. So this is going to take a while to finish. It really is, but wow, it's going to be so worth it. I just so love it, and I love it so much. It has a special place waiting for it on the wall. and it will probably be over here in my porch, right behind this chair, so that when you walk in the door and look this way, that's the first thing that you're going to see. So that is my stitchy update. Okay. Alrighty, there we go. So, put her away. Got to put her back in either a hoop or a Q-snap to go back to stitching her, because I don't know, a day can't go by that I got to stitch on her every day. That's just all there is to it. And sometimes I stitch on her all day. I'm retired, I can do that. Here's my mug. Orthopedics Associates of Lancaster. That's my surgeon. Well, surgeons. It was there that when I broke my ankle 3 years ago, falling down a flight of steps from the top to the bottom. They repaired my ankle with a plate and 9 screws. That was a challenge. That was a real challenge. I don't know if I talked about that before. I may have, but I might not have. I was non-weight bearing for three months, probably 3.5 months. Then I was allowed to put like what they call toe touch weight on it. I couldn't put my full weight on it. Eventually I got into a boot, and then I could start walking with the boot and a walker, and I did that. I fell the end of April, and it was September till I was finally done. You know, everything was healed and I was done with physical therapy and back to some semblance of normal. I still don't do steps very well, and that is not due to physical limitations. That's due to I'm afraid I'm going to fall. So I do steps very carefully, and I go one at a time. And if we're in a public place and people have to wait on me to go steps, well, I'm sorry about that, but my being safe and not falling is more important to me, as it should be, because it was a nasty fall. I'm lucky that I'm here, because I fell the entire flight of steps at my daughter's house. So that's a whole nother story. So since I had such great doctors and care at Orthopedic Associates, when I started having trouble with my thumb, and that's been ongoing for years, what I have is, or had, because I no longer have it, is basal joint arthritis. And it is the joint in your thumb down here. There's a little, in here, there's a little triangle shaped bone that joins this part of your thumb and your wrist. And from repetitive motions, and I don't know what all caused it, but I had arthritis so severe that there was actually no space anymore between the bones. So every time I did this with my thumb, I was grinding bone on bone. And it was getting very painful. I was having trouble lifting, like when you're cooking supper and you lift a pan or a pot off the stove. I was having trouble lifting with my left hand. I haven't been able to hold an embroidery hoop in this hand for, wow, a couple years. You know, and this is not something that happened overnight. This has been ongoing for many years, for it to get bone on bone. And there was also a large bone spur in there, which was also contributing to the discomfort. I couldn't take a dish rag and wring it out like this anymore. That was painful to do that, and it would be in my thumb, and it would go up my arm, and it was just annoying. It was getting more and more annoying, and more having to restrict what I did. So I went to my favorite orthopedics, and I talked to a doctor. I initially talked to the doctor that did my ankle, and he injected it, and well, in all honesty, that hurt worse after the injection. And then once the pain from the injection wore off, it really didn't do anything to relieve my discomfort. So, you know, I hung in there and tolerated it for quite a long while after that, and thought, you know, really, what are they going to do about it? Thinking, well, it's just arthritis. You know, you're no spring chicken anymore, so, you know, they're going to tell you just to live with it. And when it got to the point where it was just even more restrictive to what I could do, the doctor that did my ankle referred me to a hand specialist, also with that same practice. So I went to see him, and, you know, we did splinting. I did ice. I did over-the-counter analgesics, and nothing was making it any better. So I went back several weeks ago, and first of all, I saw his physician's assistant, who happened to be the same physician's assistant that was working with my ankle doctor. So it was nice to see him again. He's a really great guy. He looked at my hand. He re-x-rayed it, and it had progressed. It was getting worse. There's no way it was going to get better. I mean, arthritis does not go away. It just doesn't work that way, as many of you who are more my age probably know. It's not going to cure itself. So I had three choices. I had the choice to just continue to live with it. And he did say, for some people, eventually the pain does go away. But whether that's going to happen in 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, nobody knows. It's pardon me, but it's a crapshoot, okay? So that was one choice. The second choice was to get it injected, and you can do that like every 3 or 4 months. And he would inject it for as long as I wanted to keep getting injections. Well, once again, the injections I had before didn't really work. They hurt like a son of a gun when they injected. And again, there's no guarantees. And then my third option was to have the surgery. So, given the fact that just bearing with it was more or less a chance you take, that, you know, is it going to go away or not go away? Is the pain going to go away, or is it not going to go away? Because the arthritis is not going anywhere. You know, how long do you want to go and get injections every couple months? Well, that didn't sound too thrilling, because still what I was going to have to do was continue to modify everything I did, even with my stitching. And I looked at him and I said, and don't ask me to give that up, because that ain't gonna be happening. I'm not giving up my stitching. So I opted to have the surgery and have some short-term pain. And I really don't have pain at this point. I have some discomfort, but not pain. But have some short-term inconvenience for hopefully some long-term gain. Because what they could tell me is I won't have the pain anymore. You know, hopefully my hand will rehab back to as close to normal as we can get it. And that certainly will be the goal. And that's what we're looking at. So a week ago today, I had the surgery, and as you can see, I'm in a splint that's wrapped, and I can't take this off. I go on Monday next week, and they'll take it off, take the stitches out, and that's why it's in a splint and a wrap right now, because of the stitches, because they'll need to come out. It'll be 1 day shy of 2 weeks when the stitches come out, and then I will go in a cast, probably in this same position, holding my thumb exactly where it is. So, you know, I can, it pulls a little when I can touch there, but you know, I can do that and that and that. They want me to use my fingers and use my hand. But I'll be in the cast for a month, and then at the end of that month, or thereabouts, I will start physical therapy, and the cast will come off. I'll start physical therapy, and physical therapy will give me a splint to wear. So I'm sure they'll have a ton of exercises for me to do to strengthen the thumb, because what the surgery did is that arthritic bone, the one that joins this part of your thumb and this part, in here there's like a triangle shaped bone, and that's the one that was grinding away and just full of arthritis. They take that bone out, they totally remove it, so there's in essence a hole there. Okay, what they then do is take your tendon. So on this part of your arm, they go up here a little bit, make a small incision, go in, take snip the tendon loose from the muscle, pull it back up here to your thumb, and wrap it around and fill in that space, so that now you have the tendon cushioning those bones. And they tell me that it's a very successful surgery. They've done it many times, and people have had great success with it. So that's what we opted to do. Pardon my big sloppy shirt, because I have to wear big things and to get my hand in. So right now I'm dressing loose and comfy so that I can manipulate things with one hand. Hair day, I'm not having a good hair day either. Trying to dry your hair after a shower with one hand, and it's a bit challenging, but we'll make do. Hopefully once it's in the cast, it'll get a little bit easier. But we'll see how that goes. I posted in the group, and for all of you that are in my Facebook group for the love of diagonal cross stitching, thank you so much. You guys have been really fantastic and supportive and concerned, and I appreciate all your good thoughts and prayers, and it just does my heart good. You guys are a great group of people. I'm so glad I started that group, and I'm so blessed to have so many people that have joined it and are joining us in Stitching This Way, and it's just a fun time. So I wanted you all to know I'm doing fine. I have some discomfort, but virtually no pain. I'm stitching. I found a way to thread a needle, and I still don't have to use a needle threader. It's a little tricky, but I take my thread and I lay it between these two fingers, and I take my needle and kind of pull up a little loop and pinch it tight with these two fingers, and then I can take the eye and slide it over that loop. It pops right in, and off I go. So really, that's the only thing I'm using this hand for when stitching. So folks, don't worry, I'm not overdoing it with my hand. I'm using just these two fingers. I'm not holding a hoop. The hoop is, I either have my piece in a hoop or a Q-snap, and that goes on my Lowry stand. So I'm not holding it. I haven't been holding one. And that works quite well. So I'm only threading with this, and you know, I'm doing fine, and I just appreciate each and every one of you. I love you all. You guys are fantastic, and it's just a fun group. I'm just so happy to have so many people there and enjoying stitching on the diagonal, because for me, it's the only way to go. If I vary too far out of that diagonal, or I got this wild thought that I want to go back to cross country because maybe it's a little bit faster, oh, I get lost so fast, and I come right back to stitching on the diagonal. I don't even venture out anymore because I know what's going to happen, and it's not worth the grief and aggravation to have to work yourself back into a diagonal again. So I am resigned to the fact, and I'm good with the fact, and I'm happy with it, that diagonal stitching 10 stitches wide down the whole diagonal is exactly the way I'm going to stitch from now on. And that's another thing. I decided to do the whole diagonal because on Stitcher's Retreat, I had completed the first 2 rows of pages, and I didn't notice it between the first and the second row, but between this second row and where I'm starting diagonals now, I'm starting to see a hint of a page line. And I don't want to have page lines. I'm hoping that, you know, when it's washed and pressed, that's all gonna be pulled out and you're not gonna notice it. So they aren't real blatantly obvious page lines, but they are there. As I said, I'm hoping washing and pressing, once it's done, will take care of that. And that was the other, that reminds me of another thing. I think it was this morning when I was reading the group, there was someone that was asking about hoops and hoop marks. And since I had this in a Hardwick Manor hoop, were they afraid that it was going to crush my stitches? Well, I think I had held this up pretty close before. This was in a hoop, I'm going to say, for the best part of a week. Okay, it was in a Hardwick Manor hoop. It is a 10-inch hoop, and it's one of the wider ones. Okay, so it's not the one that's skinny, it's the wider one. Now, if you look real close, oh gosh, I can't do this right. I'm sorry. If you look, okay, I'm trying to, okay. if you look real close, you can maybe see a hint of a hoop mark. But the longer it's out of the hoop, the more it's fading. It would be like right in here. But if you look closer, my stitches are not crushed. The hoop mark fades when you take it out. And I had replied to this girl, and I'll not girl, woman, and I'll also say it here. I'm not real worried about hoop marks. And the reason being, hoop marks that are, even though you wash your hands, okay, and you do everything right, if you're going to get hoop marks that you're not able to get rid of, it's probably due more to dirt. Even though you wash your hands, you're still getting oils from your hands on your fabric. You know, there's dust in the air, so if you haven't moved that hoop in a long period of time, you know, or you haven't covered your piece that you're leaving in the hoop, you know, dust and whatever is going to get on there. And hoop marks are more often caused by dust and dirt than they are caused by the actual hoop. Because as you can see, that had a hoop on it. And there's virtually no mark there. Crushed stitches, I really don't worry about my stitches being crushed, for the simple reason that once you wash your piece, what I do is I wash it, and I'll wash it in the right temperature water to get rid of the grid lines from the Easy Count. I'll rinse it really, really well. Then what I do is I take a bath towel, lay the bath towel out, I'll squeeze it to get as much water out of it. Don't wring it. Just squeeze it gently to get as much water out as you can. Lay it on the bath towel, and then I roll it. Okay, start at one end and roll the piece and the towel together till you have one big roll, and then I press on that to continue to get excess water out. Okay. Depending on the day, it really depends on the day and my mood at the time, I may let it wrapped in that for a little bit. But then I will take a clean bath towel, cover my ironing board, and I may do like put two bath towels on so that I have a nice padding there. Okay, I lay my piece on top of the towel. Some people will like put another towel on top, or an ironing cloth or something. I usually don't, because I don't do long thread carries, so I'm not worried about my iron catching threads. But then what I will do is iron it until it's dry. So when I'm ironing it, I'm also pulling, if it's misshapen, I'm also pulling it back into the correct shape. And I will iron it until it is as dry as I can get it. Sometimes it is just a smidge damp yet, and then I will just lay it flat until it dries completely. But what happens with all of that, especially since you're laying it face down on a towel, which is causing padding, all those stitches that you think are crushed pop back up. They pop. You don't even see that stitches are crushed anymore. if they were to begin with, but they'll pop right back up. They'll look good as new. They'll have that sheen again, unless of course you used your thread too long where it was kind of wearing, and you know what I mean, what it looks like when your thread gets worn from, say, the eye of a needle. It gets thinner and starts to unwind, and those stitches are going to be what those stitches are. There's no fixing that, but the rest of your stitches will plump right back up very nicely. So I personally don't worry about hoop marks. The other thing is, if you're stitching in a hoop or a Q-snap and you're doing diagonal stitching and you're going the whole length of your diagonal, you're moving your hoop pretty often, so that it isn't like you're going to have your hoop on a particular spot for weeks or months at a time, because as you're working it, you're gonna move your hoop along, and that also helps prevent. And someone else asked about, can you do diagonal stitching and parking in a hoop? Well, sure you can. You can do it in whatever way you are most comfortable. If you're not putting your hoop on some sort of a stand, what you might find is you're having to lay it down more often till you switch threads and rethread your needle, because yes, it's a lot of rethreading. So if you're not annoyed by that, sure, you can stitch in a hoop, and you don't need to have your hoop attached to anything. You can hold your hoop in your hand. There's no cross-stitch police, people. You're here to enjoy this, to have fun, to stitch what you love, to love what you stitch. So you do it in the way that makes you happy. And that's the bottom line. That is just the bottom line to all of this. So I can't think of anything else right now. And it looks like I have just babbled away for almost 45 minutes. Who'd have thunk? I didn't realize I could talk that much. So hopefully we're all gonna enjoy our stitching. You're gonna have a great day. It's gonna rain here today in Pennsylvania once again, but hopefully tomorrow our humidity will be gone, because it has just been horrendous. That air is so thick when you go outside, and personally, I have avoided going outside. I have stayed in my own little stitchy spot and stitched away. 2 fingers on this hand, not holding a hoop. This hand's doing all the work. So with that, folks, I am going to thank you for joining me. No, we didn't get to stitch today. 45 minutes is probably long enough, and until I upload this and what have you, it'll take a little bit of time. So once again, I want to thank you all for your concern, for your thoughts, for your prayers. Know that I am doing absolutely fine, and compared to my ankle, this is a piece of cake. Not a problem at all. But I do thank each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every one of you. It's really fun. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. I am so blessed. I just looked this morning, and I am like only 20 people away from 5,000 subscribers. You guys are the bomb. I want to tell you, I am just so tickled pink to have so many subscribers, and I thank each and every one of you, and I am so glad that you have allowed me into your home to share this time with you. So with that, I'm going to bid you all farewell. Have a great stitchy day. Have a great week. And remember, kindness is free, so share. Give it away. That's my new phrase for these videos. I read that the other day and I thought, you know what? That is just perfect. Kindness is free. I said it wrong. It's kindness is free, so pass it on. So hopefully each of you will pass some kindness on to somebody else and make their day, because golly, you guys have all made mine. And I thank you so very much. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.